Loser projects. What do we do with those? Well, I'll tell you right now, you're getting an education. And I will say, on a positive note, you're sticking your neck out there enough to go after some of the big fish. Let's talk about each one of those. First off, whenever you get punched, it's not the worst thing in the world. And I'm not talking about physically getting punched, also this metaphor actually works there. I'm talking about getting punched company-wise. When you're the boss and you take a project and at the end of the day you lost money on it, you got punched. You thought it was going to go good. You thought you're going to bring in more income for your company. Instead, you gave them all their product and you gave them some money. That's getting punched. What do you learn from that? Well, number one, you're not staying in your comfort zone. That's a positive. I'm going to give you that one right now. It is a positive. You're just getting out of your comfort zone. You're trying new things. You're going into different market areas. That's a positive. That's the way an owner, a visionary should be. But as you go into those new areas, you have to be very cautious of what you don't know and pad the project a little bit based on your unknown areas. That's something that we didn't do in this one, and Cortez, and definitely on Moon Path, we didn't control that one as well. They didn't pad it for the craziness. They didn't pad it for the size and how hard it's going to move that product around the shop. For Cortez, for me, I didn't pad the project for quantities and how many times we're going to have to move it around our shop to get it going. Those are little areas that you overlook very fast, and so we need to go into that education area. But getting punched, not the worst thing in the world. So I'm not going to call this a complete loser. I'm not going to call this a complete loss of our time, energy, and efforts. I'm going to say that we basically paid for an education. And that's what I want you guys to look at. Whenever you guys have a project that doesn't do as well, consider the money that you lost, what you thought you were going to get, is money towards an education. When you go to college, you pay that university to teach you, right? And they teach you the curriculum based on what they think you need for well-rounded. And education, last time I checked, was very expensive. I mean, what does college cost these days? $20,000, $30,000 a year? Is it more than that? I really don't know. I'm kind of an old timer here. I haven't gone to college in 20 years, but I know it's not cheap. Every single time you have a project that doesn't make money, you're paying for your education. Now, if you only lost $800, it's a pretty cheap education if you ask me. If you lost $5,000, okay, that's a decent education you're paying for. But you lost $20,000 or more, that's an expensive education right there. That's a tough one, and I feel sorry for you on that one. So I keep saying education. What does that mean? What does an education mean? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. You better be reviewing the estimate against what you actually did. When you review what you actually did, then you have a variance, a difference. So if you thought it took 4 hours and took 6, you got a 2-hour variance. I am praying and hoping you guys have reporting tools that actually build this report for you so you guys don't have to. But in each side of every project, you should have a variance of each piece of the puzzle and how far off it was. For me personally, anything more than 5% variance, I want to know why. Why did my project have more of a variance than I thought it was going to be? Did my team kill it and they did a great job? Did a product break or a bit break and so therefore we had to rebuild it? What happened there to create that higher of a variance? But 5% is my personal time to look deeper, trying to dig deeper. And when you look into those different variances, what does that information tell you? Well, I'm honestly going to tell you there's going to be one of 3 things that you can view it and how it's going to tell you. Variance number 1, one-on-one. What was your estimate? What was your actual? And what's the variance? That's going to tell you how well your estimator did for the actual, barring no craziness. What I mean by craziness is the bit broke, the painter mixed the wrong paint, somebody tapped the sign and it fell off the table, stuff of that nature. If you're in the cabinet industry and somebody walks by and actually grabs the door and it bends it too far the wrong way, you got to recut all that wood. That type of variance, that's an extremity or an outside factor. I'm not talking about that. Those are one-offs. That just happens. That's part of owning a business. But if you have a variance where they didn't know what they were doing, so they took time to reinvent the wheel. They didn't understand the project at hand, so they sat there and stared at it. Those type of things, I want to know why. How could I have better drawings, a better description? How could I explain to them what it's going to take? The other thing I want you to do is do one to many. Take your one project and compare it to many different projects that are similar in nature. Can you see the correlation there? On average, if you look at many, on average it was 5 hours. and then you estimated 4 and it took 6. Based on one-to-many, you actually should have estimated an extra hour because that was your average 5, but you did 4. So the estimator took a piece out. Then your shop was sleeping on the job a little bit and took them an extra hour than it should have. But you do one-to-many, it's going to give you a better idea of what your estimate should have been versus what you thought it was at that moment in time when you did the estimate. So one-to-many. And then what I want you guys to do, of course, the last one is many-to-many. Take all your projects and then divide them out by each department and then see how big of a variance each department keeps doing over and over and over again. That's going to be able to show you if that department is bleeding or if that department is doing really, really well when you do your estimating. So many-to-many is going to help you. Throughout all these different ways you're reviewing your projects, you're getting a really good education on what your company does and does well and what it doesn't do so well.